Hello, just me today. Phil is moving house today, so good luck, Phil. He's finally got a little bit of empathy and sympathy with our lovely clients when they do buying and selling, and everything is completely up in the air, isn't it, till the last flipping minute. It's so stressful. The latest on his house sale is that they have a conservatory that didn't get planning permission at the time. I don't know why. It was a new build house when it was built 10 years ago. And I've never actually heard of this, but you probably have if you're listening to this and you've been in agency for a while, that as long as it's not challenged, that conservatory, but for 10 years, then they automatically get planning permission on it. Is that right? I don't know. I've not heard of that one before. Anyway, the 10 years is up on the 1st September and I'm recording this on something around the 22nd of July. So either their Jobsworth solicitor is going to make them wait until the 1st of September, or they're somehow going to get it through with maybe a bit of insurance. I don't know. But answers on a postcard, please, to what do you do when you've got a conservatory without planning permission competition. I'd love to hear from you. But today I want to talk to you about your first year in agency. Now, if you can recall your first year, I would love to hear from you about your thoughts and what you would tell your younger self. But this episode is primarily for those of you who are just starting out in agency. And in fact, I had a meeting with two lovely ladies, if you're listening to this, Rebecca and Lisa, just the other day, and we were talking about how you get started off in agency. What's your first year look like? Even if you have been an employed agent for quite a few years, there is so much to learn about building a business, isn't there? It's pretty daunting and overwhelming. So I've got a few tips, bits of advice for you that might just help you in those first few months and years, and might just help you kind of get your feet on the ground and actually make some progress and not give up when it gets really, really tough. So this episode is called Your First Year in Agency, What No One Tells You But Should. So if you're just starting out, you're probably feeling excited, overwhelmed, panic, and that is completely normal. So in this episode, I'm going to lift the lid on things that people really won't tell you about so that you can navigate your first year and come out of it relatively unscathed. We never do completely, and hopefully with a bit of cash in the bank. So firstly, the first year is really hard, and that's normal. I suppose it's kind of like a test of, will, a test of your determination to make it work. Nobody has ever said that their first year in business was easy. If you ask anybody, it is really, really tough. And I would go on to say that it's probably the first 2 to 3 years that are really, really tough. My dad once told me he was an entrepreneur, and he not particularly successful one, actually. Well, he never seemed to have any money, but he was a serial entrepreneur. And so he taught me a lot of what I know about business. He'd either learned from experience or from his parents who were both in business, or from books. He used to read a lot of books on the topic as well. And he used to say, first year you'll lose money, second year you'll break even, third year you'll make money, which means that actually the first 3 years are pretty much a write-off. And if you've come from an employed job at 40, 50K, you might be thinking, what the hell am I doing? Because I'll have no money, I'll have stress and worry. If I have staff, they'll end up getting paid and I won't. And at the end of 3 years, I will probably have nothing to show for it. And that's all true and all completely normal. But what I want to help you do here is just understand what those difficulties are that you're going to face and prepare you for them a little bit. So it's an emotional roller coaster. That's the first thing I want to tell you. And the highs are really high and the lows are incredibly low. I remember in our first year, when we decided to have a suppliers meeting. So we had a lot of freelancers, as we still do. And we had, a writer, a printer, I can't remember now, accountant. I can't remember who was in the room. There was probably about maybe 8 people in the room, I would say, plus me and Phil. And the purpose of it was to really celebrate the fact that we'd create this amazing little team, but also to help understand exactly how each person needed to work with the next person. So how a client executive would work with the printer, for example, or how the copywriter would work with the photographer if necessary. And it was a great day, really enjoyed it. We haven't done it since, and I've said often we should have done really. In 8 years, we've only ever had that initial meeting and never again. But just when we were about to sit down, Phil and I, for like a 10 till 4 day with a lunch in between, Phil found out that we had a chain collapse, and it was 3 properties, and he was so distraught. It worked out about a 20k fee maybe from either 2 or 3 in the chain that we had. And he was so upset and so worried that he couldn't actually speak. So I had to do the day, because these kind of things, and this is what you'll learn, really kind of go over my head now. But at the time, it was everything to Phil. He felt deeply passionate about it and so worried that we couldn't actually succeed as a business because of these fall throughs. Now, you and I, if you've been an agent for any length of time, know that that is actually just really normal. And to expect a chain of 3 to go through first time is probably a little bit naive. And that's what he had. He had naivety on his side. But just recognizing that if that does happen, or when it happens, really, I should say, is it will knock you for 6. But you've got to remember there is light at the end of the tunnel. You will get through it. And it's not the be all and end all. There is a fix. There is an answer. There is, a future for you and your company that is not dependent solely on that particular sale. You'll also feel a bit of imposter syndrome. So you'll go and see a beautiful home and somebody will be talking to you about the high Georgian architecture, or, I don't know, pediments, or something that you've maybe never heard before. Way leaves, maybe. I still don't know what one of those is. Maybe you can tell me. And you'll get some imposter syndrome. What am I doing in this £1 million house, say I can sell it when I've never sold a £1 million home before? And I understand that. But if you don't sort of fake it till you make it, without any bluff, bluster, lying, anything like that, but really just focusing on making sure that you're doing the best possible job for the client and being transparent if necessary about the fact that you might not have done that before. Maybe don't volunteer that information. But it's only when you feel like you could be caught out, or you could ruin everything, you could make a huge mistake. It's those feelings that are causing the imposter syndrome, not the fact that you've never done it before. Everybody's got to do something for the first time. This is just yours. And then something called the artisan trap, which we've talked about a few times on the podcast. And what I mean by that is the artisan in you wants to do the best possible job, like a craftsman. So you want to make sure the photographs are amazing and the styling is beautiful and the brochure is, a joy to behold. And every communication with your client, whether it's 10 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock in the morning, is you're giving them the best possible service and experience. Of course you feel like that. And it's probably one of the reasons that you started your business in the first place. But it is not sustainable. It's really, really important that you remember that this is not about you doing all the work all the time forever. That is not how to run a business. That is how to run a consultancy, a one-person consultancy, and you will burn out very fast, or you won't earn any money, or both. The next tip I want to give you is it's all about the numbers. And this is a really unpopular opinion, because I'm just really referring back to the artisan trap. You feel like you want to do the best possible job, right? So to you want to make sure that it's start to finish process for you. So not only are you going to take the home on, you're going to actually sell the home. You're going to do everything you can to make sure that that client has the best possible experience. And you forget that it's actually about the numbers. So without valuations, you don't have a business. You've got to focus 100% on getting your diary full of valuations and forget the fact that selling houses seems to be the point of a estate agency. It's really not. It's about the listings. It's about valuations and instructions. It's not about sales. And yes, you can argue with me that it's about the money, of course, and that's where the money comes from, right? Sales. But when you sell your one house that you've got and you look at your diary and you've got no valuations, you've got no business. So the really important thing is that you list as many houses as you possibly can. Now, as I record this, we've got slightly too many houses. We've got about 90 odd houses for sale. And for our first 4, 5, 6 years, we couldn't get above 30. And you might be at the moment looking at your little tiny portfolio of 1, 2 or 3 and thinking, right, how do I sell those? But that's not the question to be asking yourself. The question to be asking yourself is, how do I get to 30 from 3? Because if you've got 30 and there's 100 properties on the market in your area, then you're going to have 30% of those buyers, aren't you? 30% of those sales. If you only have 1, 2 or 3, how much can you really move the needle? So focus on output, which is getting valuations and instructions, not on the results, which is the sales. And in order to do that, you need to send letters. And we bang on about letters all the time. We have done for a long time. From day one, on the 4th of April, 2017, we were sending letters. Day one. There's not a week that's gone by where we haven't sent letters in 8 years. And even now, about 50 to 70% of our valuations come from letters, and probably about the same in terms of our income. So you've got to be sending out on the markets to properties on the market, and not on markets to all your FG and H homes in your area on a quarterly basis. So that means that if somebody's got a really nice house and they're on the market, they should get 16 letters a year from you. And that seems like a big ticket item, but if you focus on the letters, the money will come. So that leads me on to the next bit of guidance, which is trust the process. Do the right things and the results will come. And sending letters is the right thing. Door knocks is the right thing. Anything that gets you more valuations and more listings, that is the right thing to do. And especially so in your first year. Keep the faith. It's hard to do that. When you're doing anything hard and you're looking at a mountain in front of you, whether that mountain is an actual literal mountain, because I love climbing mountains, or if it's a metaphorical mountain, like you've got too much to do and no time to do it in, or you're looking at no money in the bank and you're trying to pay your photographer, you need to make sure that you're keeping the faith, because if you don't, then it'll all crumble. If you're getting out of bed thinking, what am I doing this for? And you will ask yourself countless times, then you're going to miss the point of this, which is building a bigger, better future for you and your family. So one of the things that I would do if I were you is I would write down all the reasons you're doing this so that you can read that when the hard times come, whether it's for your family, for your financial future, for your, you maybe have an expensive hobby like watching F1, or you might have always dreamt of buying the most beautiful car. Whatever it is that keeps you going, that's what you really need to focus on. Something I did in our first year, I think when we started, I was a year off my 50th birthday. And so I wrote myself a future letter from my 50th birthday self to that day. So I was about, a year and 4 months off it. And I wrote as if I was writing on that day. So I wrote, it's my 50th birthday today. It is the 15th of July, 15th of July, 2018. And then I described what I was doing that day. So I said, I'm going out with a friend for lunch. I've just been to see the most beautiful home on the shores of Windermere. It's going to be marketed at £3 million. Pat and Vince, the owners, are lovely. They've got a golden retriever called Tammy. And I just described exactly what our life looked like, what we had in the bank account, what kind of car I was driving, everything. And unbelievably, almost everything that I'd written on that letter to myself has come true since. Now, there is an NLP element to this. If you haven't already heard of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you train your brain to deliver the results that you want. Because if you tell your brain it's actually happened, your brain can't distinguish fact from fiction, and it will make sure that it does happen over the time you've got left. So writing yourself a future letter, I think, is incredibly powerful. Now, of course, I had to do the work to make it happen, but that's where your brain gets in sync with your motivations and your aspirations to make sure it actually does happen. So you need your brain on your side, not wrangling with imposter syndrome and, worrying all the time. It gets worse before it gets better. I think I've probably made that point a little bit too clear. It definitely is a really tough time in those first few months and sometimes years. You've got to just power through it and just keep focusing on what's really important. The next bit of advice I've got for you, which is more of a statement really, which is you'll need more money than you think you will. Lots more. You won't bank any money until at least 4 to 8 months from your first listing and even your first sale. So we opened in April 2017. We got our first sale in, I want to say September, and I think we had just about banked it by Christmas. So that whole process took about 8 months from start to finish. That's a long time, and we weren't cash neutral for a long, long time, more than a year, maybe even a year and 3 months or something. And we were focused on the right things. So even when you do focus on the right things, and sometimes especially so, because you've got to pay for letters and stamps, and you've got to pay to get properties on the market. So when you do focus on the right things, you've got an accelerated process. That means you're going to run out of money in an accelerated way, and you're going to get money in an accelerated way. And whether that takes you 10 years or 10 months, you've still got to go through that process. So you might as well get it done quickly, rip the bandage off, get the painful bit through, and then get money in the bank. Even if you go the personal agent model, you have a setup fee, you've got monthly fees, you've got take-on costs. They're all incredibly expensive. Plus, if you're not getting any money from anywhere else, which you're probably not if you've left your job, for example, you're already way behind the curve, aren't you? If you're used to banking £3,000-4,000 a month and suddenly you're banking nothing, where are your outgoings going to come from? I know the personal agent model sells you on, you'll get money in from third month, fourth month, fifth month, but you've still got to live in the meantime. So if you would normally have got in £15,000 in salary in that time, you're already behind by that amount of money, aren't you? You're going to have to find that from somewhere because you probably didn't have a big surplus every month of the money that's coming in versus the money that was going out. So keep a really tight lid on your outgoings and your expenses. You really don't need a fancy website. You don't need a really fancy car. If you're embarrassed by your car and you've got a high value home valuation, then hire a car, borrow a car, just do something, park it around the corner and walk. Don't let that be a reason why you're going to have to go and strap yourself to a £500 a month lease agreement because you can't afford it. The next bit of advice is you'll get rubbish advice from people who have no idea. Now, I don't consider myself in this camp. I feel like I've earned the right to give you this advice and say to you, actually, after 8 years of running this business and 21 years of running a business of some kind, then I can tell you that there are so many people around waiting to give you rubbish advice. So when Phil came to me in December 2016 with this mad idea to open an agency, he was 24, he knew nothing, no money, no skills. All he had was drive and the willingness to do whatever I told him to do in those early months and years. Then so many people told me not to do it. So many family and friends just said, that's crazy, that'll never work, don't work with your son-in-law, it'll all go wrong. What's he going to bring to the party? You're giving him 50% of share in a business that could be really successful. Just employ him. Just do it on your own. All this advice and all of it I ignored. Now, of course, they could have all been right and I would be sitting here now. Well, I wouldn't be sitting on a podcast talking to you, would I? Because it would have failed. But they weren't right. And I just trusted my instinct in the end. And I thought, do you know what? This is sink or swim. I'm going to make sure that we swim. And sometimes when you really burn your bridges like that, just to mix my metaphors, actually makes you successful. It actually keeps you super motivated and super sharp. When Phil lost that, 3-house chain, how determined was he the next day to go and list more houses? He was absolutely on it. And that's what it can do for you, that kind of tension. And also, stop press, accountants don't know how to run businesses. Do not ever take business advice from your accountant. I'm sure that there are the absolute minority, rare beasts indeed, accountants that know how to run businesses, but they're accountants for a reason. They are risk averse, they know how to add up the numbers, they know what other businesses are doing, but they cannot tell you about business strategy. That can only come from you. So do not take business advice from your accountant. The next one is take on the right properties from day one. Again, talking to these two lovely ladies, Lisa and Rebecca, they're thinking that to get started and get some money in the bank, they're going to start off with maybe low to mid-range properties, and maybe in that area that's £200,000-300,000. And yes, their fees of £2,000, £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, but at what cost? Because down the line, it's really difficult to undo that reputation. How are you going to then say to people, oh, well, that was just to get us started. Really, we want to sell £1 million homes. You don't work up the ladder. If anything, you work down the ladder. Those agents that have been around for a really long time that have not done any marketing for years, they're the ones that are now at the bottom of the ladder, not the top. You don't climb up, you jump up. You intentionally pitch at the right side of the market. And if all you've got is a few investor properties on there or, some 3-bed semis, that's not going to cut it for those homes that are, beautiful 4-bedroom barn conversion at £1 million or more. You've got to start high because only then can you actually build a reputation that people will notice for the right reasons. You are your listings. When you tell them what kind of homes you can sell, they're going to look at your listings to disprove that. And it will disprove it if that's what you've done, if you've gone after low value homes first. Every listing leaves a footprint. You want to make sure that you're putting your footprints out there on the right listings. Okay, nearly at the end now of my list of tips for a first year in agency. Consistency beats talent. It doesn't matter how good an estate agent you are. And I can tell you, hand on my heart, that Phil and I are not great estate agents. We don't know half the terms that are used in estate agency. I've never tried to do my, what's it called, NFOD exams. I don't even know what they are. I'm not interested really in the intricacies of exactly the legalities of selling houses. That doesn't appeal to me at all. If you go into a Ferrari garage, then do you want to be the salesman or do you want to be the mechanic? Because I always want to be the salesman. And by being the best marketer and the best salesman, you can get a mechanic to do those jobs that you're not very good at. I did hear a great phrase this morning: find somebody who plays at what you have to work at. And by that, I'm thinking things like styling, because I really dislike styling. I'm really not very good at it. So I have to work hard to make it work, to make it look good. Whereas we have people in our organisation who we're lucky enough to say can do styling and love doing styling. They play at it. They really enjoy it. It's what motivates them. Their creativity. They want to, use it somewhere and use those talents and enjoy the process. So find somebody who plays at what you need to work at. Letters every day by consistency. That's exactly what I mean. Send letters every day, every week, every month, every year. We send out 1,250 letters every single month. Last quarter, we sent out 5,000 letters. If you're sending out that kind of number of letters, you cannot fail. You will fill your diary with valuations, and every valuation, every listing leads to more valuations and more listings. Hustle every single day. Follow up, persist, show up, knock on a door. Do what you need to do to make this business work. Your feet are against the fire here. You've got to do it. Otherwise, you are going to run out of money. You're going to run out of confidence. You're going to run out of steam. You've got to just make sure that you hustle while your adrenaline is high and while you've got the ultimate motivation to do it. Because do you know what? Down the line, business becomes much more about processes and people and strategy and financial control and all the things at the moment you're not even thinking about. At first, it's fun, it's exciting, it's interesting. Your adrenaline is up when you go and see a valuation and you get your first listing. That's an amazing feeling that you'll never recreate again in the future. So make the most of it while you feel motivated and you feel determined. Harness that and really, really push forward. Show up every day, especially when it's tough, because that's what builds momentum. When you show up, you're teaching your brain that that's what you need to do to make this business work. So showing up equals results, equals more showing up, equals more results, and your brain needs to be on that virtuous loop. And the last thing I want to tell you, and I'm sure you already know this, is it's an ultra, right? It's not a 100-meter sprint. So for all I'm telling you to show up and hustle while you're feeling motivated, you're playing the long game. We didn't feel like we had really any money till the end of year 3, if not the end of year 4. And it was really the COVID bump that really kind of gave us that bounce we needed. It gave us, money in the bank. It gave us more choices, more options. We immediately invested that extra surplus in property, and that now serves us, and that will build us wealth in the future. Because let's face it, most of us that are in a sales agency or a personal agent model will never have any financial legacy after this. If we wanted to sell our agency now, even though we turn over £1 million a year, we could probably barely get 300,000-400,000 for it. It's mad, isn't it? But the money is going to come from your own independent wealth building from your business and also from your income that you get every single month. So you need to really push, but make sure that you know that you're in it for the long term, not the quick win. Your business is not going to be worth £5 million in 3 years or any of those things that maybe the internet tells you. Your business is going to be what you've created, whether that is short-term income, long-term wealth, or whatever combination you need for you. You need to create that lifestyle and make it happen for you. So we have got on this podcast episode a couple of calls to action, which is about booking a call with me. And I'm going to just reiterate that now and say that if you are considering which agency model to go for, whether it's some kind of personal agent model, brokerage model, the hub and spoke, whether it's a franchise, whether it's an employed, whether it's a completely independent, whether you're considering an investor, a partner. These are all huge decisions. Get it right out the gate and your hockey stick growth will be so much better. Whereas if you get it wrong, you're going to have to untangle those decisions over the first few months and years. So please do book a call with me. It's free. There's no strings at all. If we don't ever work together, that is absolutely fine if that's right for you. And if we have the opportunity to work together, at least I'll know a bit more about your business and I can understand and advise you and guide you better. So just reach out for a call and we can have a really good chat. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want to send a quick good luck to Phil, I'm sure he'd really appreciate you all doing that, because hopefully by the time you listen to this, he will be in his new home and very happy.